Welcome to my studio. With all the news about the coronavirus and everybody having to stay inside, I thought how especially difficult it is for parents with young children. So I thought what I could do to help is to do a drawing video. What we're going to do is I'm going to draw this little puppy right here. Now you can get these images off of the internet. Just go to Google and type in dogs and then click images and you get all kinds of pictures like this. We're going to draw the very basic shapes first that young children can do, but then we're going to develop it a little bit more so that it'll be interesting to the older children. I'm going to sit it underneath this tracing paper to get the basic shapes. But if you don't have tracing paper at home, you can use a window like this. Just tape it to the window and then put a piece of bond paper or copier paper over it to trace it, and you get the same effect. As far as tools go, I'm going to be using two pencils. They're both 9B. Now, you probably don't have 9B pencils around the house unless you're an artist, but I'm going this dark because I need it to show up on camera. One pencil has got a very blunt end, and that I'm going to use for shading, and the other pencil's got a very sharp end, which I'll use for drawing. But if you've got a number 2 pencil around the house, and almost everybody does, you can find these at any store that sells school supplies. This will work just fine. I'm going to use an old-fashioned pink pearl eraser, piece of cotton ball, and an ear swab, one of those little cotton ear swabs to get into tight areas. So if you're ready to draw, let's go. Okay, the way we're going to start here is we're going to start tracing in some of these basic shapes. We got an oval here for the head. The ears are kind of triangular shaped, like this and like this. The eyes we're just going to put in here with little circles. The nose sits right down here on the end of this, on the edge of this oval. We'll just indicate that with a little oval. The lower jaw comes down and across and up like that. Just indicate that. Now the body is a big oval, so if you come like this, there's the tummy right there. It comes around here like that, and then it goes up, and now there's an area right in here that's part of the neck. The legs are just like 2 cylinders that come down like this. Then they get lost in the grass down here. And this one comes down, leg comes down like that, and like straightens out right there. Up and then over, and then up here. Now the hip is kind of a curve, like a circle right there. Then the paw comes out here, and you can just kind of trace that in like this. And now we've got the basic shapes. So now what we want to do is start adding detail and refining all this. So I'll pull the drawing out here, and I'm going to set it over here next to the puppy's head so you can see what I'm doing. Well, the first thing I want to do is I want to locate the nose right here. So I'm going to, and it sits right on the edge of this oval. So I'm going to just kind of indicate the nose right in there like that. It's just sort of an oval at this point. Now the nose is not completely flat. It's flat on top and then it dips down. So this area down here is not getting any light. The light is coming from behind. The sunlight is hitting it from the back, on the back of the puppy here. And so the top of the nose gets some light, but this area here doesn't. In fact, the whole front of the muzzle here is in a little bit of a shadow. So I'm just going to draw a line across there just to indicate the top from the bottom. And there's 2 nostrils right here and right here. It's hard to see in the painting or in the photograph, but I'm going to put them in right there. They're in a very dark area, and of course they're very dark. Okay, now we want to locate the eyes, and the eyes come straight up here off of the tip of the nose. So if you bring a line up here, you know that one edge of the eye is right there. Now, before I get further along, I need to indicate that this head is tilted just slightly. So I draw a line down through the center as kind of a guide. And since the eyes are on a straight line in parallel with the head, the eyes are going to be slightly angled also. So they're going to be like that. So I want to draw a line straight through the eyes right here. So if I've got this line coming down here, and then I want to draw a line straight through the eyes like that. Now, the edge of this eye, the corner of this eye, is in line with the tip of the nose right here. So if I put it right there, it means that that eye lid starts right there and comes down and ends right about there. The same with this other one over here on this side. It comes up here, starts right there, it goes up over the eyeball and then down like there. Now the lower eyelid, well, let's just put a little bit more of eyeball in there like that. Fits right in that curve right there. Now you don't see all the eyeball because the lower lid covers about a third of the eyeball. So we're going to start right there, come down, cross over about a third of the eye, and then eyeball, and then it connects with the top lid right there. Same with this one. It comes down, across, connects with the top eyelid right there. Now we can use the eyes to locate the ears. So the corner of the eye, you follow that up, right up here, is where the ear starts. Right about there. And that ear comes out just a little bit, and then it comes down, and right above the eye here, it starts to make a curve. So if it comes down like this and starts to make a curve, and it comes to this point right here. Now this point is halfway the thickness of the nose. So if you run a line across the halfway part of the nose, and then that ear is going to intersect right about in there. And so the ear curves down here like that to that point right there. And now it makes a little curve in and then up, and then it disappears up there. So it goes in and then up, and then it just fades off right there. The same with this other ear over here. Now this ear is in line with that ear. So if I carry this line across like that, I know my other ear is going to, tip of it is going to be right about there because it's just a little distance off from the side of the cheek right here. So we carry our line up from this edge of the eye up here, and that tells us where the ear starts. When you're doing drawing, you're always comparing one thing's position to something else around it. And you come up here, and then it kind of comes down, it makes a curve around, and then it comes down to this point right here. And at this point, it comes in and up, and then disappears. So it comes in, up, and then it disappears. Now we got the ears and the nose, the eyes. Now we can finish with the top of the head here. And the head just kind of arches like that, where its high point is in the center right there. So if I just make a kind of a gentle arch over there like that, that's pretty good. Now the lower jaw, well actually we got to get this top jaw right here. So if you draw your center line down, the lip starts right about there, about halfway between the lower jaw and the bottom of the nose. So if the bottom of the nose is there and the lower jaw is right here, about halfway up here is this little tip of the lip right there. And it comes down and then curves around and comes out, and then it heads up and intersects kind of with the inside eyelid right there. So we come down, around, out. Let me come out a little bit further, like that, and then intersects with that eye. Now it does the same thing on the other side. Comes down, around, like that, and intersects with the eye. Now your lower lip is part of the jaw that comes off of the side of the face right here. It touches this line right here and comes down and across and then comes up and touches this line right here, and then fades off. So let's do that. We'll take it right here, just touches that line, comes down, across, up, and just fades off like that. Okay, now I can start to take out some of these construction lines in here because now they're not necessary. So we'll take out this center line. We don't need that anymore because we've got our eyes identified and all the other features in the face. Take out this line, take out that bottom part of the eye that's now covered with the eyelid. Take out that construction line, that one. Take out these over here, sides of the face. I can get those out of there, these out of there, and get rid of a lot of these construction lines now. Get this. When you make a correction like I did right here, you always want to draw your corrected line in first before you take out the line that you're replacing. That way it gives you a guide as to where you want to make your correction. Okay, there we go. All right, now we're going to add some graphite, some value here. I want to soften these lines up here because, as you can see, there's light passing through the fur right here. That's because the sun's hitting there on the back side, and the fur is very thin there, so it's very wispy. The light is coming right through there, and I want to be able to indicate that. Well, I can't do that if I have these real dark lines, so I'll show you how we're going to do that. But first we need to soften some of these lines up. And I'll take some of them out, and we'll see how you create that edge without having an actual line there. There aren't any lines in nature. What you're seeing is two different shades, a dark shade and a lighter shade coming together, and where they meet, that's what looks like a line. Okay, so start with this ear over here. I've got some shadow right in here. The fur is a little darker because the light is hitting here. It's hitting this high part on the ear and this high part up here, but this part right here is kind of cupped in, so it's not getting any light. So I'm just going to indicate that very lightly there. Just put in general shape there, just to put in some graphite, some value. And the same thing is happening on this side over here. And we'll just add in some value down here. Okay, now the sides of the face, this is in a little bit of a shadow. Its light is coming in this way, so the top of the nose is getting sun. A little bit of the side of the nose here is getting a little bit of light, but this area in here is in a shadow. So I'm just going to add some graphite in there right now. Something that we can add some value there. Same with, there's a little bit of value up here because there's a high ridge right here, and then this part of the skull is a little lower. So we're going to just add some value right in there. Now the nose, I'm going to put a little bit of graphite on the top because it's a dark nose. Then I'm going to really darken this underside, especially these nostrils here, because that's very dark. And so I'm just going to add quite a bit of graphite right there. Okay. And there's a little bit of a shadow in here. And then this side of the face right here is being blocked by the ear. So it's in shade, in shadow there. A bit of shadow there. Bring it down here, and it kind of comes right over into this area right here. Okay. Now, there's a little shadow on this ear right here because it again is away from the turned away from the light source. And under the nose of the puppy here, there's this dark area. Now this is partly dark skin and some fur right there. All puppies seem to have that. All dogs seem to have that. So I'm just going to indicate that like this. Okay, and then it extends out just a little bit of shading right here because this is lighter than this area, but it's darker than this area, which gets more light. So we're just gonna add some graphite right there. We'll come back and we'll darken this a little bit more right underneath the nose here. But right now we're doing that. And there's some, the lips underneath are darker, so I'm gonna add some graphite to that line right there. Same with here, graphite to this line. And then I can darken this area underneath. And now let's take our cotton ball and we can blend some of this stuff right here. And I'll see what happens here. Okay. Same with this. We'll soften this, soften that, this right here. Okay. Now, I don't want this line right there because it's, again, it's not a line there. So that was just a construction line. And so we can take that out. And I'll just blend it a little bit with my finger. And I want to make this little area underneath the nose here a little darker. It kind of comes out like that. Okay. And it's a little bit darker on the sides there like that. Really darken that nostril. There you go. Okay, now there's two eyebrows right here I want to capture. One is right here, and it just goes up like this and then down. And then there's a dark kind of fur right underneath the eyelid right there. And so it's right down in there. It comes down into there like that. And that's pretty dark. And same on this side. You got a light, you got a dark area right there, not quite as dark as the one below it. And I can shade that in a little bit. Same with this one, I can shade it in a little bit. Then there's a real dark area right underneath here. And I'm gonna use my cotton swab because it's a real small area there. I'll just soften that, soften that. There's a little shadow right in here, just because that's where there's an indentation right there, a little sunken in area. Now I'm going to put some value up here, but I'm going to stay away from this edge up here because that almost goes out to white. And so I just want to add a little bit of graphite in here. And I'll just put it all the way over to here. Now I can soften all this. There's something on this paper right here. It's a flaw in this paper, so like there's some kind of oil or something there, so we'll just sort of soften that up a little bit more. Okay, this is just cheap tracing paper. Right now I want to indicate this surface up here, but I don't want to use a line because it's, like I said, there's no lines there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some background, and I'm going to make the background is going to be darker than this area. So we'll just use the other pencil here. Just use the background like this. And it's okay if you get up to that line because we're going to use an eraser. We can take an eraser and erase it. So you just want to indicate that there's a background there. And I'm going to blend that so it just turns into a value back there. Now you could spend a lot of time and make the background more detailed. It just depends on what you want to do. If you're trying to tell a story, like if the puppy is at a kennel or something like that, you might want to show something like that in the background, or if there's children playing with it, you could show that in the background. But in this case, I just want to show the puppy because if you put detail in the background, it's going to draw the viewer's eye to it. And I don't want them looking at the background, I want them to look at the puppy. So we're just going to put in a value here. And it's okay to come in there a little bit on to the top of the head because we're going to erase some of that. Now, like I said, there's light showing through here. So I'm going to go up here like that, and then come across the top like that. I'll just take out some of that shading. Then there's a little bit of light that comes on this one right here, and it comes down like this, and this, some of the light's hitting up here on the head, so there's a lot of light area up here on this head. It's very subtle, so I can just very softly indicate that. Now there's also a little highlight right here and right here, and that's because there's a little bone right there, and that forms the eyebrow. So I'm just going to put that little highlight right in there. There's a little bit of light on both sides right here, and a little bit of shadow that comes down right through the center of the nose there. Just put that in there and soften that. Now let's do the eyes. There's two highlights right here on the eyes, and I'm going to circle them so that I know not to put any graphite there. They're catching light from some other source, I'm not sure what. But so let's just color around that. And we'll leave that little highlight in there. And same on this other side right here. Now if you accidentally fill that in, it's no big deal. You can just take an eraser afterwards and pick it out. Okay, now I want to darken this area here because it's pretty dark. It's almost as dark as the eye. And you just soften this eyebrow a little bit more. You see too many pencil lines there. Okay. Now I want to darken this, and then it's down underneath here, it's kind of dark. And then there's a light, a little bit of a shading that goes up here, and there's a shadow cast here by the ear. So I want to indicate that. And there's a little bit of shadow right underneath the ear here where that ear is casting a shadow there. And we want, that's a very important thing to include because it shows you that shows the viewer that ear is not it's not part of this surface right here. It's actually separate, and it's sticking out a little bit. So we want to indicate just a little bit more right there. The same with this ear over here. It's kind of dark right there with it overlap. It's casting a shadow right here on the side of the face, and it casts a shadow down here. So if I darken this right in there, and then I bring that cast shadow down like that. Okay, now we've got a shadow right there. Now I can lighten this part of the ear right here. And same with this one down here. There's a little bit of the ear right there. And we'll carry that across. Carry that across. Okay, and I think I'll take out this little bit of construction lines right there too. So there's a little bit of shading over here, a little bit of shading over there. And this lower lip is quite a bit darker than what I show it there, so let's add some value right there. Now there's a shadow area here on the chest, and again I want to stay away from this edge because there is light hitting this fur over here on this side, and of course a lot of light hitting over here. So I want to stay away from this because that almost goes to white. And so we're just going to add some graphite down here where the tummy is here. And let's see, the edge right here of this chest starts up about here, and it comes down, and then right about down here it makes it a little bit of a bow out here. And what this is part of the shoulder. So it comes down, and then it comes down here, and we're just going to leave that right there like that for temporarily. and I'm going to take out some of this construction stuff here, construction line. I'll soften that line a little bit because we're going to wipe that line out actually with the background just like we did before. But I'm going to add some tone right in here, some value. Value is the lightness or darkness of an area compared to something next to it. So I'm just going to add some graphite down here, staying away from this edge. And we'll bring it over here, over in there, and that up right there. Okay, now we've got this grass that's right here, so we can indicate that. And there's a little area right here that's a little shadow. And what's happening there is that you've got part of the hip right here. And the puppy is actually sitting on its hind leg over here. So there's part of the hip right there. And again, it goes around underneath the puppy, and then here's part of the paw sticking out. So we want to indicate this right here. And then there's two little folds right here. And so I think this is a little female puppy right here. So we'll just indicate a line right there. And then add a little bit of value right there. And then there's a dark area right down here, right underneath here. And we'll just shade that in. Now this hip area is kind of in the shadow there, so let's soften some of this. And we'll just soften this over here. Soften that. Okay, this area right in here, we can darken that again because we lost some of it there, so we want to darken that a little bit more. Same with this one right here. Okay, and right up here there's a little bit of a shadow that cuts through right there. Okay, now I'm not going to carry this all the way because it's really a repetition of what we've done up here in the head, and I'm running out of time on my video, so I'm going to indicate this area right through here with, again, with the shadow, or with the background, I'm sorry. And the way you do it, just come up to that line, like that, and fill this in, like that. And now I can soften this. Right there. Now I want to pick that out, that highlight there out, so I'll just come back up there, and there we've got that. I think I made it just a little bit too pronounced right there for the neck. I mean, bring the neck down there, about there. That makes more sense there. Okay, and then there's a little dark area right here. In shadow, I want to increase that a little bit more. A little indentation right there. Drawing is all about looking for the details. Details that most people don't notice, but they're the things that make a drawing look really good. And you as an artist, it's your job to notice those things. So now we're going to just continue here. We'll just add some dark underneath in the tummy area right here. There's this little paw that comes up like that and gets lost here in the grass. Grass through here. And we'll carry that little bit of shadowing down there, and then we'll carry that shadow up here on the hip, and then it disappears right here. So the hip doesn't really see, you don't really see this whole curve like that. It just kind of disappears into the light right there. And this paw right here, I'm going to put some grass there, but I'm going to also shade that a little bit. And we'll put soften that. A little bit of, I can actually draw with this cotton ball because it's got so much graphite on it now. Let's take this construction line out. And we've got some dark value, really dark value down in here compared to this light part of the leg here. So I'll just add a little bit of value there and darken it underneath here. And then I can soften this. Okay, and then we'll do that. We'll just continue the same way down here, and you've got grass down here with the tail, and part of the tail here is in shadow, so you can add some shadow right there, some shading right there, and then again bring your background down here, just like we did up above. Bring it right to the edge, and then you can soften that. Just take out that line right there. And that's how we draw a puppy. I hope you enjoy that. I hope it's informative. You can use all these techniques to do any animal. The principles that we learned on this drawing, you can use on any drawing. Find yourself a picture of another puppy or whatever animal you prefer and use the same techniques that we did with this drawing. This is a great hobby. You can do it for your whole life, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you join me for the next video.